Unplugged In, Cambodia's quest to build a modern society for the future while reconciling its barbaric past. It's been 40 years since Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge executed a genocide, killing at least 2 million people. Can this nation of majestic temples with a rich and vibrant culture move beyond the killing fields to write a new chapter of its turbulent history? We talk with one person who is trying to do just that. Unplugged In, Khmer Rouge, a survivor's story. Hello, I'm Greta Van Susteren, and welcome to a special edition of Plugged In. We recently were in Cambodia, a country once ravaged by war. But when we were there, we saw that it's still a nation dealing with its violent past, the pain inflicted on the Cambodian people during the Khmer Rouge era of the mid to late 1970s. Youk Chhang is one survivor who is still trying to find a way to move forward with his life. Here's part one of my interview with Mr. Chhang. Where were you born?
Here in Phnom Penh City.
In what year?
1961. But according to my mother, I was born on the year of the ox.
In the year of the ox?
Yes. I was born in the morning. So destiny to be a hardworking person, and life can be only prospered when I'm getting older.
When was the first time you heard the term Khmer Rouge?
I heard of it a little bit before 75, because during the war, Vietnam War, that I was in high school already, and usually I would have asked by the teacher to protest on the street, support the higher salary for the teacher. So we heard the word Viet Cong, not Viet Cong and the Khmer Rouge, a little bit, but I have no idea what's going on. So I know a little bit about it.
When was the first time that you realized that the Khmer Rouge, that they were going to come into Phnom Penh and essentially throw everybody out?
I actually look back and try to find the dates through the article printed on New York Times 1975. It was on the 16th April.
1975?
Yes.
And what happened on the 16th of April 1975?
That because I was home alone. All my mother, my sisters, my aunt, my uncle relocated to other location, near the Tonle Sap River for better protection.
So they knew there was a problem. So
yes.
If they were looking for protection, let me back up then. What provoked the need for the protection? Something must have happened that they knew that they needed to get protection.
One of my sister had a baby like 6 days old. That was the real need for better protection. Because one of my sister got married, and I remember the baby was 6 days old. So, and we live, about 2 kilometers from the city. So usually where the shell, the rocket, drops at night.
Why didn't they take you when they left?
That's my question too. It was my question until 20 years later.
And let me just jump ahead. What did you learn 20 years later?
There was no clear answer from my mom, so I didn't push forward. Now she's 93 years old. She forgave all the people who did the bad thing to us, to our family, and I just don't want to ask her in detail.
So in April of 1975, you're 14 years old. You're in Phnom Penh alone. Are you in school at that time, or?
I was home. So a couple of Khmer Rouge came to my house, and I can tell that they Khmer Rouge because they smell.
Smell? What's the smell?
They smell like buffalo, because they come from the countryside. I'm from a city boy, so I can smell them. I said, this is not my people. And they looked very rough, and then they told me to leave homes, which I did.
They told you to leave home?
Yes.
What did they say, just get out?
I didn't remember exactly, but with guns, with bayonets, then I have to. Actually, for the entire street was empty. I'm the only one the last one who left home, because I was thinking my mom would return. So I keep waiting and waiting and waiting. And suddenly a couple of Khmer Rouge soldiers came in and just pushed me out, which I left.
Were people being evacuated by that point?
Yes.
Okay, so you knew that people were getting evacuated.
I didn't know it was evacuation. I just saw people walking. And then it was quiet. Nobody talked. I still remember until now that people were so selfish, because on the streets I was the only young boy without family. When I turned around, a signal asking for water or food, and everyone turned their back to me. Like, you feel like you're alone among your own entire country. So I keep walking. The only people who actually respond to my request was the Khmer Rouge soldiers, who gave me food on the streets. I didn't know it was an evacuation until I hear the Khmer Rouge made the announcement that everyone have to go home.
And where was home?
Exactly, I just left home. And then Khmer Rouge said, everyone must go home. Return to your home village. And they make like a big microphone. They were speaking on the streets. So I was confusing, so I thought about my mother home village in Takao, which is about 78 kilometers from here. That sort of first came to my mind. So then I decided to ask the Khmer Rouge, how do I get there? Then I keep pointing the street, left, right, left, right, left, right. So it took me over a week to get to the village by foot.
So where did you go?
I go to Takao province. Like I said, it's about 78 kilometers from the city.
How did you, on your bicycle?
No, I know this village because I visit the village. I visit my grandparents there in 1968, so I remember the name. Bicycle, you cannot ride a bicycle, you have to walk with a bicycle. Like 2 million people on the street. You cannot even move. It takes you like a day to make like 200 meters of walking because it's crowded. So I remember the name of the village and I knew Takao, so I keep asking the Khmer Rouge, where's Takao province? And he said, this way. So I keep walking. For a while I asked another Khmer Rouge, so where's Takao? He said, this way. So I keep walking.
So how long did it take you to get there from the time you left home?
From the city?
Yeah.
Several weeks.
And what were you eating?
I asked the Khmer Rouge, they gave me, they call it a sugar palm cake, which they make for soldier. There's this shoot like this, and they're like a spawn cakes, and you can eat for days. You can eat a little bit at a time, and then you can eat that one for the whole week.
So between the time you left home and the time you ended up at the village, did you see any sort of violence or anything that the Khmer Rouge were doing to the Cambodians at all?
I didn't see, maybe others have seen, but I didn't see it. I only see that they were on the jeep, the microphones. I saw them walking with their guns. I saw them directing people on the streets. I did see some dead body when I tried to look for water off the road. When I get off the road and try to look for water, then I saw some dead body. I saw, the number of people getting smaller and smaller as you get out of the city because people get off, to their direction. So by the time I reached the mountain, only a few people were on the streets. The rest was gone.
Up until that time, had you ever heard the name Pol Pot?
No.
Not at all. So you go off to this village, and how long are you in that village before you move on?
When I arrived at the village, I got lost at the intersection. This is very funny. I finally found the market, which is, I remember there's a small road from the market to my grandparents' house. But when I found the market was empty, except the Khmer Rouge soldiers everywhere. I couldn't find my grandparents' house because I remember there's a small pond in front of it. I couldn't see it. So I keep going back and forth, and suddenly there's one old lady came out and were asking me whether I'm the son of my mother's, because I look like my mother. And she knew my mother. I said yes, and suddenly she was crying because I think she knew what's going on, and she was crying so hard. And then she pulled me she lived next to my grandparents' house, where I found the pond, but the pond is this big now. Before I used to swim in the pond, So I was excited, but then she was crying. And she told me not to say anything. She told me not to mention my mother's name. A lot of things going on. I just like, what's wrong with these people? And then I remember that she cooked sweet and sour soup with beef for me, and she said this is very special, and try to eat it because we only have beef like every 2 weeks, like we're given by the Angka. This is the first time I heard of the word Angka. So I stayed there and then they put me to work.
Who's they put you to work?
The Khmer Rouge, the village chief came and told the old lady and the 2 girls that I have to go to work next day.
And so that was the day after you arrived?
Yes.
And what kind of work did you have to do?
They sent me to dig the pond nearby the village, and then they changed my work to plow the rice field. And then I also learned how to ride the ox cart. I also learned how to pull the potato, from the field. Different job.
Were you content to do that or unhappy to do that?
It's very heavy for me. To carry dirt is very heavy. I don't know how to carry dirt but it's always people around who knew my mom helping me out. This is like where my mom was born. And so everybody know my mom's family. So the neighbor always tried to help me out, help to carry water for me, do something for me, knowing that I don't know what to do with it. And I still remember a lady, her name's Minh Hai, until today. It's always with me. Those people with me until now. One of them is called Auntie Hai. She was about 30-something. And then at one point, she went to catching fish with the basket, like this. So she brought me along, and I don't know how to catch the fish. So she asked me to come.
Because you're a city boy.
I didn't know all these things, but now I love everything then.
Did there come a time when you either left the village or that the Khmer Rouge were abusive to you? I mean, what happened?
Well, then they did. I was arrested, I was put in prison, they tortured me, they suffered me.
All right. When were you arrested after going to that home next to your grandparents? How soon after were you arrested?
Well, that's a different part. The second part, after I living there and reunited with my mom.
You reunited with your mother?
Yeah, in that village, about 4 or 5 months later. And then we were told that we are not allowed to leave the village because my mom left village at an early age, so therefore she no longer considered as a villager of the village. And therefore they put us on the train for the second evacuation to the Thai border. This is where the what I call it, where is the horrible thing that really happened to me.
And what happened?
Well, there we were separated. One story that I also used to tell a lot of people already is that we have no food to eat. This is like a flat rice field. Consists of like 50 kilometers square, no tree, no nothing. I always escaped from the unit to see my mom. At one point is when I arrived home at night just to visit her. Then I saw one of my sisters, she's pregnant and she doesn't have food to eat for several months. And she's one of my favorite sisters. I love her. And so I decided to go out and steal. Actually, I go out to the rice field and pick up mushroom and the rice that fall on the ground. But then, we were told that doesn't belong to us. By doing that, I know it's stealing. So I went out to steal it, and then I success in the first time. So I feed my sister, so I was very happy. So I always escape from the unit and do that. But you know what? They knew that somebody did this, so they were waiting for me to return for the third, for the fourth time, and they got me.
That was Youk Chhang. He is a survivor of the Khmer Rouge communist movement, responsible for one of the worst mass killings of the 20th century. Today, Mr. Chhang is working to document the atrocities while helping families of victims find out what happened to their loved ones. But documenting these horrors takes Chhang back to what he himself experienced: torture and excruciating pain. Here's part 2 of my interview with Youk Chhang. So what did they do to you publicly?
They torture, they torture until I was couldn't move.
But torture in what way?
The axe, they hit you.
With an axe?
With the axe, with the holes.
In the head, the body?
With the head, the body, and they would also use the hole to hit your leg so that it's a warning. Don't run, you know. They hit, don't run, so it's bleeding. So
And how many people were there watching this?
the whole village, about a few hundred, I think.
How long did it go on? Do you know?
I don't know how long, but I remember for a while. Then I was put into a prison.
From the torture.
Yeah,
And what did they say to you while they were torturing you?
nothing.
Just did it.
I didn't remember. They say something, but I didn't remember.
And what is prison like?
You know, there's a prison for the village, for the commune, for the district, for the central. There's different kind of prison, and this is called a village prison. It's an old house that they create like a shell. They create like they create it from the existing old house, and you sleep on the floors. It's no walls. If you're lucky, you will put on the first floor, then you're protected by the roof. If you sleep on the ground, then when it rains, you're hit by the rains or the rat or snake. So that's where I was put in on the first floor.
How long were you in prison?
I think so for a week.
And then what?
Every night, this is the most boring things in life. Every night they would call all the prisoners for a meeting. Nighttime. Daytime they put you with the chain and you work. Then nighttime, after a little bit of food, then you call for a meeting. It's called a livelihood meeting. Everyone have to confess that you did something wrong, or you think something's wrong and ask for forgiveness. So every night, everyone come up with a lie because even though you don't, you have to say like, I think about my sister, that's a crime, so please forgive me. Then people say, okay, go back to yourself. So everyone have to do that every night. At one point I ran out of lies. So this guy, he's much older than me. I think he's mid-30, he's old guy. I said, can you help me with a lie? Because I ran out of lie. He was in front of me. So I was whispered to him. Then he stood up and he actually told the prison chief to release me. He said, this is a good boy, he worked hard, and he honest, he ran out of lie. Would you release him? And they did. I'm here now, they did. But only later I learned that they killed him in exchange of my life. So I was.
So to release you, they killed him?
Killed him. So, this is one of the thing that I was looking for his family for 40 years. I think he knew my mom, from the same village. So he died.
Would his killing have been public? When they killed him, was that done publicly? It's done publicly. Did you witness any killings at all? You saw killings?
I did.
And in what context?
In that village, when they kill people, they kill publicly.
They made it public?
Yeah.
And were they killing boys or men or girls or women?
I witnessed a few, and one of them was a couple.
A couple? For what reason?
Well, I did an investigation at that crime. I wrote about that, actually. The crime was they fall in love with each other.
Fall in love with each other. That was the crime?
Because they didn't ask for permission.
From whom would they ask for permission?
It's called Angkar. We don't know who. Can be a village chief, can be
And you saw them get killed?
Yeah. I saw them killing.
How? How did they kill them?
They usually use the holes to hit the necks.
And that was done publicly?
You have to watch it. It's they call it people court.
They make you watch it?
You have to watch it.
So you have to come out of your village and watch somebody be killed.
They have a plan, they they would tell you a day in advance that tomorrow is a meeting. That I just think about him.
You read these atrocities, it's just breathtaking. The cruelty is so incredible. Why? For what? What did they get out of this? What did you think? And I don't mean to, to push these painful questions to you, but, I'm like, what were your thoughts as you're living this existence where they're bringing people out of a village and making people witness executions and people being executed? Was it just you just wanted to survive, or what did you think of the people who were doing this? Was there hate? Did you, fear? What?
I went back and met some of them.
Some of the Khmer Rouge?
I met the one also who tortured me.
You've met the person who tortured you?
2002, 2003. I went back to the village and I searched.
You found them?
I found them.
And what did you say to them?
Well, they didn't remember me. They didn't know who I am. This time I returned as the Youk Chhang, director of BC camp. And I have trained in the US. I understand human rights. I went to school. So I returned as a different person to understand. So I did separate personals and professional. And I was not in the position to interview because I'm holding the evidence for the court because I fought for the court. So my staff conducted the meeting. So I listened. It's bothered me because they were so truthful, they were so honest with my staff.
He was honest?
All of them tell my staff exactly what happened.
Did they say why they did it?
We're not in the position to ask to people to be self-incriminating or violate their right because we doing this present to the court. So therefore we didn't ask why you did this, why you killed people. Those questions were omitted from the questionnaire.
But they say they did it. They admit it.
The answer that they provide to my staff didn't lead to the question, why did you kill people? We didn't ask like that. But the entire 4-hour interview, I was very upset because they were so sincere to my staff. And then the other guy asking me if I want to drink coconut juice. In our culture, they apologize.
They apologized?
By doing that. I didn't accept it. But they did their part,
Apologized.
By doing that, because they're much older than me. When older do things like that to a younger, in our culture, it's seeking forgiveness. But I didn't accept it. I wanted to say it. But how can they say they don't remember me? What's the point? So we were apart until now.
You have now done a lot of research on the genocide. What has surprised you the most in all your research?
Emotionally, that I've discovered that a lot of happy time that we had also in the Khmer Rouge time.
You had happy times with the Khmer Rouge?
I didn't know it was a happy time then until now when I'm much older. I have 4 childhood friends. They were Khmer Rouge kids. 3 girls, 1 boy. And I didn't know that we were so happy when we met back then. So I visit them quite often. Actually, one of them married to a commune chief. So I decided to build a road in that village because the village have no road from the village to the rice field. So I built a road. It's called a reconciliation road. because in that village there's so much happening. So many to hate and so many to love.
What's it like now? I mean, because today in Cambodia, you've got children of the Khmer Rouge, you've got children of those who were victims of the torture and who survived the torture. Obviously, so they have children. But what's it like now for everybody?
Well, we have to understand our history so that we can control the futures. But this is the most difficult history, a complex history. And that's why I can understand how complex it is. I've been through, I lived through it, and I worked through it for decades, so I can understand. So that's why I think that understanding is the most significant, so that to rebuild the society, and everyone have to understand. And that's why I focus so much on education after the tribunals. It's always helped to bring us closer through an understanding.
Is it discussed? I mean, is it still like, among the young people? It's a very young population here.
It's compulsory.
But what? What's compulsory?
The teaching of the Khmer Rouge history.
It's compulsory
now.
So people are openly talk about the atrocities
yes.
and the genocide.
Yeah. I think it's always easy to talk about somebody else, but not your own. Mm-hmm. Like I never speak to my mom, for example. It always speak about other people that I research on, for example. So the teaching has been compulsory since 2009. It's been 10 years now. We need a textbook, work with the government. From grade 7 to 12, have to study the Khmer history. Also, foundation year of every single university. The quality is still low, but it's there in the scientific way, not in an emotional or political way, so that people can search for their own answer. Each of the mention of the Khmer Rouge in any part of the country represent a similar form of truth commission that you have heard of. People discuss among smaller group, bigger group, family, pagoda, churches, mosques, government officials, different way, different form. And everyone have their own determination, they have their own understanding. And that, for me, it's very, very healing.
Thank you very much for talking to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us on this special edition of Plugged In Cambodia. Stay plugged in by liking us on Facebook at Voice of America. You can also like my Facebook page at facebook.com/Greta. And follow me on Twitter at Greta. Thanks for being plugged in.